Hi, girlies. Welcome to Book Please Podcast. It's Alina here, and today we have a very special guest with us, a co-host for the day, my girl and friend of show, Cassidy.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. Amanda is away in New York with her family. We figured we'd give her the week off. She'll be back virtually next week, but we're so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited. I love the studio and your cute signs. I feel like I'm on Call Her Daddy.
Basically, in the book version, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, this is our first time having a co-host in studio and actually having a co-host in general. We always have a guest with us, but it's really fun and exciting for it to be you. I feel like you're kind of a big deal around here because we have a couple like main characters in our show that we always bring up, and like you're definitely like the source of a lot of my stories for sure.
Well, I feel honored. I'm always excited like when I'm listening to the pod and you're like, oh, and you know, our dogs are playing and my friend Cassidy. I'm like, I like the little shout out.
Queen. It's so funny because our listeners actually pick up on it. We have like a few people that they know. Like our lash girl, her name is Sue. People have latched on. Like if we're talking about lashes, our comments will be like, Sue did her thing or whatever. And it's just so funny how people pick up on it. And for anyone who's new here, every time we say like Austin, clip this, or Austin, whatever, Austin makes our social videos. He's so funny. He does all the animations, all the little sound effects on all our TikToks and our reels. So like people know the people that we reference. And I think you're up there.
Good.
So
That's
I'm
great.
honored to have you.
I'm honored to be here. I'm excited.
We had lived together in the same complex for like what, a year? Well, lived in the same complex together, I should say.
Right.
And our dogs are best friends.
Yes.
We are both crazy dog moms. And I feel like there's tiers to this where we're at the highest level and you match my energy where it's like we think we gave birth to our dogs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the level that you and I are at for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we're both insane, but we both know that we're insane. This like reminds me, I was at a wedding a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to this person. So this was a wedding of someone that my fiance was friends with. So I didn't know everybody, but I knew like his core group of friends.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to one of the other wedding guests there who is friends with my fiance, but I had never met before. So we're just chatting and he has I think a daughter, maybe a 1-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, my daughter just turned 1. And I'm like, oh, that's so exciting. And I see pictures and he's showing me. And I say, oh, yeah, my son just turned 1 too. And he's like, and I think he was just so confused because he's friends with my fiance. And he's like,
I don't have a child.
I know Logan doesn't have a kid.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is going on? So I'm like, yeah, my son just turned 1. And he's like, oh, okay. And I like pull out my phone and I'm showing him pictures of Scotty, my dog. His birthday party. And he was just looking at me like, this girl is
Looney
insane.
Tune.
Yeah, she needs to be in a padded room.
That is so
and
funny.
yeah, I was like, okay. But that is like you match that
Yes,
energy.
I literally have a similar story. I did the same thing. I told someone I was having a birthday party for my child, and it was literally my dog.
Yeah.
Can I just say your dog's first birthday? Shout out Scotty. We love him.
Love him.
He's besties with my little Cash. That birthday party was over the top. It was better than like a child's birthday.
I mean, it's like he only gets one first birthday.
know.
And he's just the light of my life.
Yes. I will say, like, it was the saddest part about moving away from that complex was you and Scotty. Cash and I miss you guys so much. But the funniest part about it was like all the complex drama, all the tea.
Always.
And like pro tip, like if you have a dog, use your dog to your advantage. Like Cassidy and I were always up on all the drama, and our dogs were like the lead investigators because we'd be like, oh, something's going on. Police are here, this and that. I'm going to walk the dog and I'll like cue you in on what's going on.
Yeah, it's the best excuse to be so nosy and to like find out the drama.
So funny.
And like my dog, Scotty, is just as nosy as I am. So like something's going on and he's like peeking his little head up over the bushes. Like he wants to see what's happening. So I'm like, yes, do it. And like, of course you have to be like, oh, Scotty,
come here.
stop. And
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, keep
They're,
doing
like,
it. Good job.
Sniffing the police's feet.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
cuffing someone.
Yes.
That was so funny. And the best was like when we would both do it and meet up with our dogs and do it together. Remember when there was like a rogue crab in the complex, and I was like, get Scotty and get out here right now. There's a crab.
Yes. There was always some kind of insanity going on in our complex.
And still is.
Still.
And I'm still subscribed to those emails. So
oh,
I
you
see
are?
it. Yes.
And the emails are just insane. Like They are ridiculous.
Yes.
But we miss having you and Cassie there so much.
So do we.
do.
We actually did something really fun yesterday we should talk about. We went to we went to help shelter dogs and cats. We donated toys and they're using them to like stuff stockings for the animals for the holidays.
Yeah, it was cute. And it was just so sad. Like to think about all of these poor little dogs and cats that are sitting there in the shelter. And it's like, you know, our dogs are our children. I just can't even imagine. It makes me want to cry thinking about these dogs.
And we saw that one that really looked like Cash. Yes. It was really heartbreaking. But it was it was your idea. It was such a nice thing to do. I felt so fulfilled just like going there to help. I think they really needed us. They were a bit disorganized in there.
They were. It was a little bit of a hot mess. And like I'm very type A where I want to be like, okay, let's do this.
And then
it was a hot mess, but I'm really glad that we did it.
Yeah.
And it's just like so sad to think about these animals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like our boys have so much stuff, like all these toys. It's ridiculous. They don't even know what they have.
I know. I had to I donated the ones that he's like barely used. And then we went to the store and like picked up some new ones too. I knew you had a whole like stash at home, but it's very sad. And like, at least it's a lesson for them to like be grateful for your spoiled little life.
Seriously. And that's what I was saying to like my family and stuff. I'm like, oh, Scotty's learning about giving back. He's like donating some of his toys. And they're like, yeah, I'm sure he really knows.
Like,
yeah. And like I have the bag of toys up on the table and he's just like looking at it, barking like, Mom, I want these.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you have enough.
So funny.
Yeah.
Another thing that we've been doing is watching a lot of Christmas movies.
Yes.
What would you say? We love those like cheesy holiday movies. So what would you say was like your favorite one so far this year?
I really liked the Lindsay Lohan one. But what the heck was it called?
That was my favorite one too. Like Silent Something.
Our Christmas Secrets or something like that.
I think you're right.
Something like
Let
Christmas
me look
Secret.
that up. Lindsay Lohan. Christmas. That was called, I think it was like a secret something. If only the Wi-Fi would like be on schedule with Book Please's needs here. Oh, here we go. No way it's called Falling for Christmas. Oh, no, that's an old one.
Yeah, that was an old one.
Okay, Our Little Secret.
Okay.
Good job. You did it. I knew it was an S word.
Something with the secret.
I was like, silent.
I liked that one.
Yeah, that one was the best one, I would say. I was most anticipating the one that they were like, oh, there's going to be one based on like Taylor and Travis. And they did this whole thing. And it's like called like a Chiefs like love story. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I was disappointed in that one. I mean, it was exciting to see Mama Kelsey and like Andy Reid have their like
that was
cameo.
Cute.
That was cute. But like I thought, I'm like, oh, this is really going to be like Taylor and Travis.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this isn't.
They just shouldn't have marketed it like that.
No.
And then we would have been fine.
Yeah. And I think there was another one though that like I forget
it's
what
like
it was
a
called.
pop star and an athlete.
Yes. And I think that one is more on track to be like them. But this one I think was just so like I just thought it would be like Taylor and Travis.
Yeah. I don't know why they hyped it up because it's like some crazy fan and like someone who works for the Chiefs that fall in love. And I was like, this is not giving.
No.
It was fine. It was just, you know what it is? I think I watched the Netflix ones first and then I watched the Hallmark one, which is that Chiefs love story one. And Hallmark is just too much cheese.
It is. Like, I love it, but it is. It goes to a different degree.
Too cringy. Like, I think I've graduated from the Hallmark Christmas movies. I think Netflix is doing a really good job, though.
They are. They're cheesy enough. I mean, I still
but
love
more
my Hallmark.
Realistic. Yes,
they are.
Yes.
And Lifetime also has some good ones.
Okay,
I did watch a Lifetime one last night, and it's like Hallmark is like top cheesy.
Yeah.
And then it's like Lifetime, and then maybe Netflix and Lifetime are interchangeable.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll try some Lifetime ones. Then the other Netflix one that I saw was A Merry Gentleman.
Yes, with Chad Michael Murray.
Chad Michael Murray used to be like the love of my life.
Oh my God, yeah.
Chad Michael Murray and Taylor Lautner, I would say, are my like two like crushes.
Yeah, I always loved Chad Michael Murray from One Tree Hill.
Yes.
But yeah, I liked that one also. I thought that was pretty good. But still, the Lindsay Lohan one was my favorite.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Did you watch Meet Me Next Christmas? It was like the Pentatonics or something.
No, I didn't see that one.
It was with like Christina Milian.
Okay.
I feel like there was so much hype about it.
Yeah.
I watched maybe half of it, but I just couldn't get into it.
I actually want to. Oh, Christina Milian. Yeah, I did see that and I saved it. Oh no, it's not good.
Some people love it. I feel like it's like I mean, again, it's one of these
Too
Christmas
much.
movies.
Too much.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Okay. We have to get into it.
Okay.
We've been avoiding this for a while. And I will say this. I just have to give a little shout out to Amanda for being a trooper to deal with this. The good thing about Amanda and I is we have balance. We are pretty opposite, like with certain interests and things. And like she'll check me and I'll check her. And like you and I are just on the same end of the spectrum where we're like dogs and Taylor Swift and like whatever else. Like, so there's a good and a bad thing here. We have to talk about Taylor, so Amanda's off the hook. Mm-hmm. But also we're going to talk about Taylor. So we're so sorry, Amanda. But I just have to say, it is the end of an era. The end of eras.
Yes.
We are recording on Sunday afternoon, which is, this episode will drop on Wednesday, but this is the last day of the Eras Tour, which has gone on for years. I am wearing my merch.
I love it.
Had to. I'm in mourning. I've been playing her music all day.
I love it.
How do you feel about this?
I mean, I feel like I can't believe it's over.
Yeah.
Like, it's been, 2 years that she's been on tour?
Yeah.
It just seems like, oh, no, she's going to say, like, just kidding, guys. I'm coming back after the new year.
Yes.
I don't think she's going to. I mean, that's, like, exhausting.
Exhausting.
Like, even at her shows, just as, like, a concert goer.
Yeah.
It's, 3.5 hours that she's playing?
Insane.
And I need to sit down. Like, I need a break.
Yeah.
And
we're just standing there.
Exactly. I'm standing there, like, bopping around, and I'm like, whew, I'm winded. I need to take a little break here.
Yeah.
How she does this, like, night after night.
Yeah.
And is, like, romping around the stage, you know, in these high heels. I'm
It's
just like,
insane.
she is not human.
She's sampling, like, literally sources of every album, like songs from all her biggest hits through every era. It's unbelievable. People go on tour for one album and she's doing like every single thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know. Do you think she'll ever do this type of thing again? Like, I know she's not going to come back in the new year. I know she's not going to revive eras, but do we think there's going to be like a concept like in eras again?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I just feel like this has like been
such
a production.
Yeah.
I will say though, the only thing that like I am bummed is that I wish there was a debut era.
Okay.
That there wasn't. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like people love those like OG songs.
Yes.
And so it's a little bit like disappointing that she didn't include that. And I wonder why she didn't. Like maybe it's just like so far removed from like her current life.
Yeah.
I mean, she was so young when she did those songs, but I love some of those songs.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why even how many shows did you go to?
2.
You went to 2 and your sister went to?
I think like 9. She went to Miami all 3 nights. Yeah. I think like 9.
I have to let you in on a confession.
Okay.
It's not really like a confession, but when I met you, it was you with your sister, I believe. Yes. You had just moved in. She had come to like help move you in. And you didn't even have a dog at that time.
Yep.
And I had met you guys, and I think your sister was wearing like an Eras Tour merch like T-shirt. And I was like, you went? Because it's insane to get a ticket. Like it's absolutely out of this world. It's like impossible. If you don't get a code, like you need $1 million.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, I'm meeting someone who went. And she's like, yeah, I've been to like 5 shows. And I went into my apartment and I saw my boyfriend and I was like, babe, these girls, you moved in and I was like, they went to Eras like a few times and like, oh my God, her sister, this, that. And like every time I would see, and like, I literally love you. Like, you're like my family here and like whatever. But it was so funny in the beginning. He always had this joke with me that he's like, you're getting close to her because you want to go to the tour. And I was like, I'm not.
That's
it's not like
so
you're plugged
funny.
in.
You're
like you
these
just,
bitches.
yeah, he's like, I know you're on a mission to go to Taylor Swift and that's why you're being her friend. And I'm like, I'm not.
That's
being my
so
friend
funny
because of that. But he, for a while, like trying to remember your name, he always called you like the Swiftie or the Taylor Swift.
Oh, really?
Girl.
That's so funny.
Like before you guys ever met,
right?
That was how you were.
Oh,
known.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's like we have like some connection with Taylor that she gets us these
like,
tickets.
I'm
I
like,
wish.
No.
No, my sister is just like die hard. I mean, she is the one that like. I went twice. She got the tickets both times. Like she is like
she's on it.
Very swift with like Ticketmaster and all of the things.
Yeah.
And
that is so funny. Okay, so we are going to make some predictions for night 3, but when this episode comes out, we will already know what happened. So we'll get to see if like our predictions came true.
Okay.
We're hours away from the last show. I will say you and I talked about this. Our biggest thing we would have wanted and we're waiting for was like Travis, like one revival.
Yes.
But we know that's not happening.
Yeah. I mean,
he has a game.
Yeah, I know. I'm sad.
That would have been the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, I want to see Killer Trav back on stage.
Yeah, like,
I do.
come on. Where are you?
And like I even said to my sister today, I'm like, well, what time do the Chiefs play today? If they play early.
No, they play at night.
I know. But I was like,
but there is a time difference.
Yeah, but I think it's like a 6-hour flight to get there.
Yeah, so
to Vancouver.
That's a stupid thing for me to say because the time difference is like going to be the flight basically anyways.
Yeah, so it's like, but I'm like, if they play early, maybe he'll jump on the flight and then he'll go. But I'm like so disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to see him back on stage.
So I've been following. I am not as deep in as like these like theorists who know everything. But this weekend I've kind of been checking in to see like anything that's happened that's different on the shows. So for last night, the second night out of 3, she got on stage and had Gracie Abrams come out for the surprise songs. And she basically hinted like, this is the last opportunity to have Gracie up here with me. And then she said something when she was singing Maroon, which was like the last song. She's like, this is my last chance to sing with you guys. And I'm like, did she mean Maroon or did she mean in general? So my prediction is probably for night 3 that she's going to have like an extra set that she does during that time.
Instead of, so you think no surprise songs?
Well, I think the surprise songs will be like more. So when she came to Florida, she came to Miami, which we went to the same night, Miami night 2, and she had Florence come on to do her song Florida with her. And she never did that again, but they had a whole production for it. Like that's a surprise song to the max to me. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That's not in the show, but like they actually did a whole like choreography around it. Maybe she'll do it. I mean, maybe she'll have an intimate moment, but I think in some way she's extending it or adding like some sort of performances. Maybe Post Malone will come.
Maybe.
For Fortnite.
Yeah. I don't know. I am so excited to see what she's going to do. I would be surprised if she doesn't do like the surprise songs because it's like people love it.
That is true.
They love it. But I'm like, is she going to announce Reputation?
I think she might. She's doing something with her fingers every time she says her TV.
Like, I think she's just trying to get people riled up too.
Yes.
She's like, oh, I know these crazies.
People are, okay, Swifties are going too far.
Yeah.
They're looking at the colors of her skirt. They're counting numbers way too deep. I'm like, she's not doing, because they're putting too many of the elements together. Maybe like, okay, just the skirt, red and green, like go and stop or whatever they're doing. But you can't be like, we counted back 180 this plus the 13 plus the 22 plus. And I'm like, nobody's doing that plus colors plus rhymes. Plus, you know what I mean? Like, it's coincidence. It's magic, the way things happen.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think that she's doing all that.
Yeah. I mean, I think people investigate this like a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like, it is like wild.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope she does Reputation tonight.
Yes.
That would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, maybe she'll like throw in some extra like debut stuff.
Yes.
That would be fun.
That could be like, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe it's either I think she may be leaving a little space, and maybe she still does surprise songs, but leaving a little space to do a little more rep and announce. Or maybe she'll do some debut during that time and like those are the surprise songs or something more special. I do think she'll do like a long live type of song. That's like the farewell.
Yeah, I think so too. I am surprised because so Friday night it was like her surprise songs were almost like a tribute to her parents. It was Best Day and Never Grow Up on the piano. So then it was like, I think the thought that it would be Friday was kind of like dedicated to her parents. Yesterday would have been like dedicated to Travis. And then tonight would be to the fans.
Yeah.
But yesterday the surprise songs were not like dedicated
they
to
were
Travis.
Kind of random.
They were. They were. Yeah, it was surprising.
Yeah, I was happy that we got White Horse. I actually had said I want her to do something OG like White Horse or something like that because if she never does an Eras type thing again, I'll never be able to hear this live. Yeah. I would have also loved 15.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That I was like, I kind of said White Horse or 15, and she did do White Horse, so I was happy with that.
Yeah, I was happy with our surprise songs too. I thought they were great.
What else I think is really cute is on top of the surprises that Taylor has for the fans have little things like a little celebration for her. So last night they did a thank you chant, and they all held up like their phones, and each section had like a different color with a note that said thank you. And I was watching her processing what she was seeing. And it was like a thing, like it's circulating on social media. After Champagne Problems, we're going to do a thank you chant. So everybody was ready. And it's kind of like they did the Globes one. I don't remember what show they started doing those Globes because she has the orbs on stage for one of her eras.
Oh, yeah.
So now the thank you chant was last night. And tonight what their plan is to sing happy birthday because her birthday's this week.
Oh,
and that's
so
like
cute.
the last thing. I'm like, she's gonna like. I was just watching her last night when they were all thanking her.
Yeah.
And I just was choked up. I was so emotional. I'll show you her reaction. You just watch her process in real time. Like it's something
I didn't
else.
see that. That's so cool though.
It's really special. I think the happy birthday will be so special.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I cannot wait to see what she does.
Me too.
I cannot believe it's over. I think like not going, I'm great having seen it one time. I've saved the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to watch it. I'm holding on to it because it's my last thing.
Yeah.
But if I went to another show, it would have definitely, I would have loved to go to tonight to just
see how it ends.
Yeah. I'm like,
sure.
do I need to be watching the live streams in the middle of the night? Like maybe
No,
I
know. It would have been so fun to go tonight and just see the end of an era.
For sure. Okay. Speaking of Taylor,
okay.
Spotify Wrapped.
Yes.
Introduced they do it every year. Their number one global streaming artist is Taylor Swift. So there's a list of people that they announced. Let's kind of go through it a little bit and see. Let me find it. Okay. So Spotify Wrapped, by the way, do you know what your Wrapped was?
Okay. I have a very controversial opinion on that.
Okay. It's fake.
Well,
it's rigged.
No. So I don't use Spotify.
Okay.
So I don't have the Spotify
So you have
Wrapped.
Apple one.
Yes. So I don't use the Spotify Wrapped.
Okay.
But it drives me crazy when everybody is posting their Spotify Wrapped thing. I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
And I know that you posted it for the pod thing.
Yeah.
And it was not even on the day that everybody was posting it. So to me, I was like, oh, this is totally not the same thing.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I can say this. But because that was just different.
Yeah.
When everybody posts it, I guess whatever day that it drops, and it's just everyone on your story.
No one gives a shit.
I'm like, nobody cares
Yes.
who your number one streamed artist is or song. It just drives me crazy. I don't know why. It's just I don't know.
I know.
But
it is really annoying. And it's if you post one thing, okay, but there are also people who are dissecting having 5 stories, their song, their artist, their album. I'm like, shut up. Nobody's reading that.
Right. I'm like, I literally am just scrolling through it, and I'm like, this. I don't know why I even care. It's just keep scrolling through. But for whatever reason, every year it just drives me crazy.
It's just an ego post, honestly.
Yeah.
There's 2 memes that go around that I think are so funny. One of them is they make fun of the girls that post it, and they're so accurate. And the meme is this is literally data.
Yes.
It is accurate.
Yes.
And the other one, this is the direction I thought you were going to go, is when you listen to a random song one day and all of a sudden it's on your top. And so the memes are so funny. And it's the most random song in the world. And then it's Mambo number 5 is your top song because you played it one time at a party. And then it just never forgets it. Those are so funny to me.
Yeah. I'm not a Spotify girl.
Okay.
I don't know.
So okay. Well, yeah. I use both, which is kind of toxic, but mine are always the same. It's Ariana Grande is my number 2. Well, Taylor's my number 1, Ariana and Sabrina Carpenter.
Right.
Basic white girl vibes. I'm obsessed. I don't care if I'm mainstream and embarrassing. I do have Amanda's so that we can have some balance. Okay,
hers will be different than
hers
ours
are far different.
I'm sure.
And I sent her mine because I knew we were going to talk about this, and her response was, "That could never be me."
No,
and
no,
I was dying. It's just so funny and so true. We love you, Mandy girl. Okay, so her top, Morgan Wallen was her number 1. She's a country girly for sure. She has Jessie Murph.
I don't know who that is.
Me neither. And she has country vibes. And I actually looked up Jessie Murph because I was I kind of want to see who is this person? I'm so sorry, girl. I love you. Because I didn't know. And it's one of her top albums. That ain't no man, that's the devil. And I was like, that's Amanda.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
She'd be jamming to
I
it.
was like, I'm dead. That's so funny because she's just bad bitch vibes. And then let me see what else is on her list. Luke Combs, Jelly Roll is on there. Okay.
Oh, she does love Jelly Roll.
Yeah. So love, that's a great country vibes type of chart.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
like, what would you? Oh, well, if you don't have one, I guess Taylor would be your first.
So yeah, I mean, but even on like Apple Music,
Yeah.
literally all I listen to, like the only music I have downloaded on my phone is Taylor.
Yeah.
And so I just listen to that, and lately I've been listening to like Christmas also.
Okay.
So it would just
yeah,
be
so
like
cute.
Taylor and Christmas. It'll be like the
Yeah.
pop Christmassy, like you know,
Yes.
Ariana Grande or like Kelly Clarkson, Taylor Swift, like
Yes.
that Christmas stuff.
I think like also Sabrina Carpenter came out with like a special. Is it on
Yes.
Netflix?
Yes.
She's doing, and she has all these guests. Chapel Roan is on there. Tyla. She is. I really cannot wait. That'll be so fun to like play on Christmas. Just like have on your TV. It's like
Yeah.
live performances. Christmas. I even had Wicked like somewhere on my top because I was just playing the soundtrack
Yeah.
so many times. I was like, this is embarrassing because I've only had this soundtrack for a month.
But it's like, yeah, if you listen to your main people mostly,
Yeah.
and then like kind of stragglers are gonna, you
Yes.
know, make their way on there too.
So Spotify's global artists, number one. So most streamed artists globally in 2024. Number one, Taylor Swift. Number two, The Weeknd.
That is wild to me.
I find him so random. Like, okay, everybody loves The Weeknd. I'm controversial. I think I'm the outlier where I find that all his music to me sounds the same. It's all the same vibe that I'm over it. If I've heard one, I've heard them all, and I don't care anymore.
I couldn't name one song from The Weeknd. If you said to me like what's a popular song of his?
I don't know if I can name them. Like I could
Just
like no, you're perfect. You deserve
okay.
it.
So yeah, like I know that
like,
song.
You know, like I don't even know if those are the words. Don't
Yeah.
quote, don't
No.
quote me.
I know that song, but like I would never be able to name any of his songs.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is this man number? Is it? Yeah, just a single.
He's
single
number
man,
two.
singular.
But
That's
this
crazy.
is global. So number three makes sense thinking that it's globally is Bad Bunny because I feel like he crosses like US major, but also a lot of Latin countries. So that makes sense to me
Okay.
globally.
Okay.
And then Drake is number four. Makes sense.
People like Drake.
And then Billie Eilish.
Okay. Yeah.
I think she's great. There's like some artists that I don't even know of that are probably more internationally big, like Peso Pluma. Fade is, I don't know.
Yeah. Never heard of them.
Ariana is number 9. Kanye West is number 8. Travis Scott is on there at 6. Okay. Something that sticks out to me here is that Billboard made a big deal about like they're coming out with this like 21st century list of number one like global pop artists, like the top pop artists in the world in the past like 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they put Beyonce at number 1 and Taylor Swift at number 2. So I'm like looking at this list of global artists on Spotify and Beyonce's not on the top 10. And here's what I think. Obviously we are Swifties and we love Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And Beyonce is a legend. She
Mm-hmm.
is an icon. I love Beyonce. I've seen her on tour. She is incredible. She's number 1 for their pop artist list on Billboard of the 21st century. But they they give a dedicated like to the top people, like a whole dedicated like breakdown of everything. And then they just have the rest of the people on the list. So they have one for Beyonce, who's number 1. They have one for Taylor. Why are you introducing Beyonce's being like, so Taylor Swift by the numbers is number 1, like blah, 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 blah. But our editorial staff picked Beyonce because like, if you're going to give Beyonce her moment and her flowers, just say it with your chest.
Right. So then I wonder, how did they come up with this then? Which I'm very shocked that Beyonce is not on the Spotify globally, like at least top 10. Like that is
because
really...
she had her Renaissance tour.
Yeah.
Like I think that her reach globally is not as big maybe as Taylor's.
Okay.
But I just think it's like, first of all, if you're going to say that, like just why are you being like, it's almost like you just didn't want to pick Taylor because you're like, I want to be different or this is overplayed or we're like, okay, you're annoyed that Taylor's up there all the time because she is probably the biggest pop star and by the numbers she is. So just to me, it's like not even a knock to Beyonce. It's just like, then just say it. Why do you have to involve Taylor in Beyonce's article and be like, it's not Taylor because.
Right. But I also wonder, like, how did they decide on Beyonce?
They said basically that it's like her influence over the past 25 years rather than just looking at the past, however, like many recent years.
Okay.
But when you still break down the numbers, a lot of Taylor's songs were like always a number 1 hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting that still globally Beyonce's numbers aren't the same, but I think over time they're saying like her influence on pop culture and everything over the past 25 years. I was listening actually to a podcast that was breaking it down. I mean, they were kind of Swiftie leaning as well.
Yeah.
But they were like, because Taylor's like, what was it? Like her debut album was like what, in 2007 or something like that. And I think Beyonce was more like early 2000s. So they were like, oh, because Beyonce was alive longer the past 25 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that. I'm like, what are the numbers say?
Here's my other problem with the Billboard list. So their list is called, let me get it like completely right. It says the greatest pop stars of the 21st century. Now, if you're calling it pop stars, it doesn't make sense to me. I think you should say superstars, legends, icons of the 21st century, because pop stars, they have Beyonce 1, Taylor, who's not in pop. Taylor Swift is 2, Rihanna, Drake. Like, those are not, I wouldn't say Drake is a pop star. He's a rapper. He's an icon. Right. He's a legend. He's a superstar.
Musician.
Like, it's kind of, I think that's what's throwing people too, because they have like Kanye West before Justin Bieber. If I'm thinking pop star, I'm going to say Justin Bieber is the pop star, and Kanye is an artist, a rapper, a legend. So maybe like, I think that's what's throwing people. We're bringing this up too because there is so much controversy around the ranking. And I think if they kind of reevaluated how they named it, it would sit better with people.
I also wonder, because there is so much controversy around like the ranking and Taylor being number 2, it's like, was that part of like their motivation of being like, if we make Taylor number 1, people are going to be like, surprise, surprise.
Eye roll.
Of course.
Yeah.
But if we make her number 2, and it's like, I mean,
like
I don't know.
Everyone's going to flip out.
Yeah. It's like, it's going to be a thing. Is that what it is? I mean, again, not a knock to Beyonce.
Yeah.
But I just think, especially like at this time, and like, Taylor has like such a huge influence. Like, even like the economic impact like her tours have on all of these places that she's going to. So maybe that was part of their motivation.
Yeah, I think that's a great take, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
I'm going to leave it there because that's just like perfectly set. The other thing, if we go back to Spotify Wrapped, what they did for the first time this year, which is really relevant to our Book Please audience, they, for the first year in a row, the first year ever, I should say, did their top audiobooks. So I am really excited to go through this list. So they did top audiobooks globally. So the number 1 was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Did you ever fall into the ACOTAR world?
I have that book.
Okay.
But I have not started it.
Okay.
But I have
so
it.
You're close.
And I know people are obsessed with it.
Obsessed. You're one of your close friends is like all about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have friends that are like, oh, this is like the best. And I'm like, I don't know, because it's fantasy-ish, right? Like,
yes, it is fantasy. Fantasy, romantasy. Have you read Fourth Wing? That's the other one that's like compared. Okay, so those are both on the list. So number 1 top audiobook globally was A Court of Thorns and Roses, according to Spotify. And also at number 4 was its second book in the series, which is A Court of Mist and Fury. So people are obviously like loving that. Oh my God, the next one at number 7, A Court of Wings and Ruin. So like her whole freaking series, well, half of it is on this list. And then Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, which is the other big fantasy book that's pretty comparable, is at number 10. Also on this list, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover at number 5.
I loved that book.
Beyond loved.
I loved it.
I have to say, Amanda and I talked about this last week. We love her. Last year, I think we put It Ends With Us, her series, either as our favorite book that we read last year or our second favorite. We like do a ranking every year. And It Ends With Us was either our number 1 or number 2. I can't remember who put what. We also had Fourth Wing up there. So definitely recommend that one. And then another Colleen book that we both loved this year and we both put as our favorite book we read this year is called Reminders of Him. I'm begging you to read it.
I don't have
I will get it for you.
I will have to read that one.
It is my favorite book. I recommend it to everyone. Like, it is such a good book. It basically starts out with a girl coming home she's been in prison for like 10 years or something like that. Or actually, I don't know how many years. Don't quote me on how many years because she's still fairly young. And we don't know why. And we know that she went to prison for her boyfriend's death. but we don't know what happened. So like you're kind of navigating her, like you just pick up when she's like in a taxi on her way back from these years spent in prison. You don't know why. She's like passing the road marker where her boyfriend dies. You're like learning as you go. But it's also like a love story, but it's also devastating. It's also so many things. And she had a baby while she was in prison, and her boyfriend's family has the baby. And like they don't want to see her. And it's like this whole terrible like thing, but it's also beautiful. It will have you bawling your eyes out. It was because I like that it has a little mystery in there. It has like different layers, which I think It Ends With Us did too. It's not like as cheesy. It has layers. It has depth. It has serious like issues in it. And so I think that's what really her like formula that does her best is.
Yeah.
What would you say in the past year? I know you read too. What would you say was maybe one of your favorite books that you read?
So I'm so annoyed with myself.
Okay.
Because in the beginning of this year, I was like plowing through books.
Yeah.
And then I made a goal for myself. I'm like, I'm going to read 20 books this year.
Okay.
And like before this year, like I would read like lightly, like not a ton.
Right.
But this year I was just going through them. And so I think by like June, I had read like 17 books.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this is going to be a breeze. I'm going to hit my 20 goal like in no time. Then come July, I read like one book, and then I just like stopped.
Sometimes it happens.
Yes. I have not read a book since like July. I'm like, I have 2 more books left to hit my 20 goal.
Yeah.
And it's what, December 8th.
You can do it.
I am like, I want to because I'm so annoyed with myself.
I believe in you.
But anyway, so of the 18 books that I have read this year, I really enjoyed The Perfect Couple. Although the show, I think, kind of like ruined it for me a little bit because I absolutely hated the show.
They changed everything.
They did.
Why?
They did. And now to me, I'm like, I wish they never did the show because I just kind of have a bad taste. It soured it. Yeah, it did. It soured the book for me. But I really enjoyed that. I read It Ends With Us, I think, like the end of last year. So I'm
that
not.
Can still count. It's
okay. So if I'm counting that, I would say that was my favorite.
Yeah.
But if not, I also really liked. I think it was called 5 Star Weekend.
Okay, I've heard of
by
that.
like Ellen Hildebrand. Which
she wrote The Perfect Couple.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's typically not my kind of like genre anyway. Like I like books like The Housemaid, which I read this year and I really liked that. But I don't know, I really liked the Ellen Hildebrand books this year. It was, I think, because I read them in the summer and they're like, they do have
Nantucket vibes.
Yes. And it's just like they're light, like summery reads, but those both also had like some kind of like story behind it. It wasn't just all fluff.
Yeah.
So I liked both of those.
I love that. And you actually gave me, we read The Perfect Couple for the pod, and you gave me your copy, which was so special because like I love like passing books around. It just makes it even more special. Yeah. It was such a great read, but I totally agree. I think that is the worst, like, I would say book to film, book to show adaptation because they changed everything. Yeah. I would have rather they just made a different show entirely than tried to like take it and be like, oh, we made this into a series. How can you literally change like the core of the biggest thing the whole time is that you're trying to solve the ending and the death mystery, and you literally change that. So that to me was absolutely absurd.
It was so bizarre, and I just think it was shocking that it was so bad with like the cast they had: Nicole Kidman, Dakota Fanning, and
all-star cast.
I thought, oh, this is going to be so good, and I was so excited because I didn't know they were making a show, and I finished the book, and then I like saw something online, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so excited. Yeah, and I was like, this sucks. Like,
I didn't like any of the characters.
No one. No.
You couldn't watch it, and like I didn't know who to even root for. Like the whole thing was so strange. It was like they made it like I don't know. They just went weird with it.
It was weird.
But in parallel, the book It Ends With Us that you mentioned, which had a movie adaptation, was phenomenal.
So good. I felt like it was so spot on. And did you see that it's coming to Netflix, I think, tomorrow?
Oh my God.
I feel like I'm pretty sure it's like
so
December
this week.
9th. Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
I thought that was so good. I loved it.
Let's talk about one more thing that we are watching because you got me into this.
Okay.
Netflix. JonBenet Ramsey, the documentary Cold Case, is out.
Yes.
The first 3 episodes. I don't know if they're going to have more or if it's just 3.
I think it's just the 3.
Okay. Yeah, it felt conclusive.
Yeah.
Do you wanna take this one and just give a little synopsis
Sure.
on who JonBenet Ramsey is?
Okay. So JonBenet Ramsey was like this little 6-year-old girl that's pageant queen, like in these beauty pageants.
Mm-hmm.
From when she was little. Like her mother, Patsy, and her father, John, had her in these. Which one thing I didn't realize, so I knew her father's name was John, but his name is JonBenet Ramsey.
Stop.
And so they named her JonBenet.
That's really bizarre.
So I'm like, okay. And her middle name, I think, is Patricia, so named after the
Patsy,
mother.
yes.
So I was like, oh, wow.
They really went.
They went for
They're
it.
like, this is my kid.
Yes. Yeah, that everyone's going to know it. So that I thought was kind of interesting. But anyway, so they lived in Colorado. And this was 1994.
Yeah,
it was a long
something
time
like
ago.
that. Yeah.
And it was, a really long time ago. So it was Christmas Day / December 26th that they couldn't find her. So like after Christmas Day, they went to a friend's house, came home. They said that they put the kids to bed. Everything was fine. They wake up on December 26th and they cannot find JonBenet. So they call the police and, they find this ransom note.
Yes.
It's 3
Which
pages.
is like the key to like a lot of this.
Yes. So they find a 3-page ransom note and it's just like this elaborate note like addressed to the father.
A novel.
Yes. Like, and it was saying, I want $118,000 and then I'll return your child, which is such a bizarre number.
Yes.
But also then it came out that that was the exact amount of his bonus that year for work. They were like a really wealthy family.
Yeah.
And even the language in the ransom note was just like attaché, which I don't even know what that means.
Yes.
Do you know what that
No.
I don't know what that means. They like use some really weird words that it's like somebody that is taking your child.
A wordsmith
like,
is sitting there like, let me just make
dictionary.
this freaking a literal book, like a literary masterpiece.
Yeah.
So strange.
So they find this letter. They call the police. They can't find her. So then eventually a couple hours later, the father goes into the basement and there's JonBenet murdered in the basement.
And like bound and beaten and whatever.
Yeah. So her head was, somebody hit her on the head. They're not sure if her cause of death was asphyxiation,
I think.
Asphyxiation.
Something.
I can never say it.
It's okay.
Or from being hit in the head. She was strangled or, she couldn't breathe and she was also hit in the head. They weren't sure which was the cause of death. But it was horrible. And she was like sexually assaulted also.
Yeah.
And she had like tape over her mouth.
Yeah.
But the crime scene was just entirely butchered.
Yes.
Because the father found her downstairs, like ripped the tape off of her mouth.
Yes.
Carried her upstairs. And it was just like an absolute mess.
Yeah. The whole thing is crazy because it's 30 plus years later. We don't know who did it. There's so many theories. This has become like a true crime, like this like fantasy where people are trying to predict this and that. And was completely butchered by police. They didn't seal off the scene whatsoever. They didn't do a thorough investigation. When they went in, they didn't find her initially, let the father just happen to like come upon her. And there are theories where the police thought, it's the family, it's the parents, at least one of the parents. And then there's a lot of people investigate. Well, Lou Smith, one of the lead investigators, like came in and like was like disproving so many things that is like, and he is the one true investigator that like came in and did a deep dive on a lot of the evidence. And they're like, they found male DNA that's not the father's and this and that. And they're literally on a track to disprove that it was the parents. And it's all of a sudden the police have like an ego and they're like just trying to come up with these fake theories. They're like, well, what if one cop is like, what if she wet the bed? And then the mom got upset and they're like, well, was the bed wet? Did you check this, that, the other? And the bed's not wet. They have like the photos, they have the sheet. Like the whole thing is just completely botched, completely ridiculous. And I feel terrible too that like if these parents really did not do this, they have ruined now 3 lives plus the brother who they've now said the little brother who was 6. There's another theory that like he did it because she ate some of his snacks and then he like this. they said the way that she was bound was like by an experienced person who like knows how to do certain ties and certain things. And this like little boy, however old he was
9.
Nine.
Yeah.
Okay. She was 6. Like, did not do this.
Mhm.
Come on. Like, the whole thing has just gone crazy.
I just think I think there's such a fascination about it because it's like you said, it's been 30 years or so. And the crime scene was so butchered.
Yeah.
It's like just insane that the police were there and didn't find her. And then I think there was still police in the house. And like the one officer was like, says to the father, like, oh yeah, just like search the house. Like, why are you having the father
like
search
tell
the
him
house?
to go do something.
You should have like the family out of the house. This is a crime scene.
Yeah.
And then he finds her. And it's like, although they did find like an unknown male's DNA like on her underwear.
Yeah.
And they said that like DNA ruled out the family and like they tested like 200 plus people and it ruled everybody out. But then there's also some talk, which I don't know if this was in the documentary because I also listened to like a 4-hour long podcast on this.
Mm-hmm.
That like the DNA isn't like necessarily entirely reliable. Like they are not sure if because the crime scene was so butchered, if it's even reliable to say, oh, you're ruled out and you're ruled out. So that's also another thing.
Well, what they were saying too was like they allowed the family to have guests over for comfort, like right after it happened. So there's all these people in and out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is just so crazy. I also thought it was interesting that the ransom note said, for me, I don't know that I know that I don't think it's the parents. I really just feel like, especially that one investigator, I felt super aligned with him. And I felt like he was trying to like wave red flags all around the investigation, was like, this is crazy. Like, this is messed up. Like, this does not seem right. And the police are just like trying so hard to be like, it's the parents just for their own ego.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that I believe it's the parents, but there are certain things that make me a little bit alarmed about the dad. One is that when the cop was like, go search, he went right to the body. Like he went right downstairs and he's like, oh my God. So that's a little weird.
Yeah.
And when I do watch back the footage of like them talking to the media, the mom is so beyond distraught and he's a little like, he looks more put together, I guess, but I shouldn't judge, but that's how it comes off to me. And the other was the ransom note. That's what made me a little nervous. The note is crazy. It's on their paper, but also I thought it was weird that the note says like, do not tell anybody. Do not involve the police. Like, we will kill her. We have no problem killing her. If you tell any soul about this, don't even tell somebody like while walking your dog down the street, like whatever they were saying. And immediately they're like, we called the police. First of all, if you're going to call the police and you have a ransom note for your kid and it's like, do not tell anybody, like, you know, you're going to be watched or like in some way somebody's going to be onto you. Don't you think you're going to call? And they're like, the police are like, a squad pulled up right away after. Why would you not be like, hey, we need you, even if you call them, come in secret. We need you guys to come in an unmarked vehicle or not show how you're getting into the house, like make it discreet, or can we meet somewhere or something? To me, that is not the first. I would panic. I would have to call for help because like they're going to be like have more resources and probably like smarter than you than just like getting out the money for these people. But if that was the case, like why are you just like calling police and having them enter your house and having all these people come over? Like you're like, oh my God, she's missing.
Right.
What are you doing?
That's the thing. I'm like just so hung up, I think, on the ransom note.
Yeah.
Where it's like apparently, which is like kind of odd to me, the father, and then the mother had like separate notepads that like they're each designated notepads. And the ransom note was written on Patsy, the mother's notepad, with her like designated pen. And they did like handwriting, like tests,
analysis,
and like it matched to some of what the mother had written in her notebook. Like there were like things like, I think they tested a lot.
Like just the way you curve a letter and like even if you manipulate it, they can probably tell. Like they had experts.
So they had experts like comparing the handwriting samples and some of it was matching Patsy, the mother's. And so it's just interesting also if this was truly an intruder, even if the intruder came in the home while they were at this Christmas party. Yeah. It's bizarre that the intruder would come in and take the time to sit there, write this 3-page novel, and then hide out and then kill her.
Yeah.
But say that like, oh, I took her, I want this ransom money. It's like, then why would you kill her? Why wouldn't you just take her?
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to add up.
Yeah.
And I know there are a bunch of theories about Burke, the brother, having done it.
Can't.
So I definitely don't think like, oh, he, strangled her and did all of these horrific things. Like, but I don't know if maybe, he pushed her or hit her or something.
And
like,
then it was a cover up.
That's the only thing, because they did release like years later that the grand jury had found probable cause that the parents like assisted somebody in like covering up what had happened, or like that they kind of knew what happened.
Yeah.
And so charges weren't brought against the parents ever, but we don't know what kind of evidence was necessarily given to the grand jury. Yeah. But that it sounded like they were helping somebody cover it up. And it's like, who would they help cover it up besides their child?
Son. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's also like, would parents really be capable of doing that to their kids?
Torture, not just killing.
Yeah, right.
The whole thing.
It's so horrible. I mean, it's just, I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah.
There are so many theories, and I listen to them and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. It's like, we don't know.
The other thing is too, like the media coverage of it was so unethical and so crazy, and they even like started to like paint it. So even I feel like just the way that the media works, like a lot of the things that we even believe, you and I, is going to be tainted because there wasn't like proper non-biased representation. They loved to run for some reason with the fact that like she was a pageant girl. Yeah. And they were trying to make at every turn the fact that she was sexualized, because I mean, to me, if you look at pageant girls, they all looked like her. Those photos, the way that she was like, yeah, you do a dance. Yeah, you're in these little outfits, hair and makeup. Like, have you ever seen Dance Moms? These little girls, they even have fake like teeth that they put in. Like, right. That's what they all look like to me. And I mean, even in the document, I will say this Netflix documentary was super well done. It is like, I thoroughly got a whole I always hear JonBenet Ramsey, but like this really gave me a full picture of like what was going on and everything. But I don't know. I think the media took that part of it and just like ran with it. And there was one part too that they kept focusing on, and they're interviewing these random ass people, and this woman was like, she was performing like sexual acts with a saxophone.
Oh, that was so stupid.
She's dancing with a saxophone, bopping up and down during like one of her little performances, and she was saying, oh, she's putting it between her legs. Not once.
No, that was dumb.
It was funny because as the woman was saying it, they were playing the clip, and it doesn't match what she's saying.
I was surprised they even played that, because I was like, this woman looks like a fool.
Well, I think that was the point.
Yeah, I guess.
But you see, like, they're also like, whatever they show us is how we're gonna like interpret it. So like, we're never really gonna know. But this was just super interesting. I hope to God, honestly, like that it comes out, like if really the parents are not involved, like it comes out before he does, because the mom has passed since. Yes. And I'm just like, let the father rest in peace and like know what happened. Like I would love to see it. Yeah. They feel like they're closer than ever. It looks like they're gonna be reopening, like a full restarting the whole investigation. Hopefully. So let's see. Maybe something will happen.
My other thing on it though was that the father was participating in this Netflix documentary. So I do think that watching the documentary, it was kind of like, oh, maybe the family wasn't involved.
Right.
But part of me also thinks to like what you're saying is like how it's being portrayed to us. Yeah. Like I think from the media years ago, it was like, oh, 100% the family was involved. Yeah. And so like without really knowing what happened, everyone thought the family was.
Yeah.
And now watching this Netflix thing, I'm like, the family
is involved. It makes the dad look good.
I think it makes the dad look pretty good. And people are like, oh, no, maybe he wasn't involved.
Yeah.
So it's like you just truly never know. It depends like who's putting this show on.
Yeah.
Like who's in charge of this.
So true. The perspective.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, that was a good deep dive. I hope you guys watch it. It was really good. And if you don't, maybe you'll take some of our Christmas movie suggestions. So for this week, we were supposed to recap, because Amanda's not here. She'll be back next week. We were supposed to recap a book that we were finishing. But Amanda and I are going to do that next week, and we're going to give our ratings. We read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay. And she wrote Seven Husbands.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've heard of One True Loves, but it's on a lot of people's top like favorite books.
No, I haven't heard of it.
So basically, I'll just give you a synopsis. And for any of our listeners who haven't caught up on reading, you have one more week. So One True Loves is basically about this girl who is married. And, well, let me backtrack. This woman is engaged, and she had a previous husband who was in a helicopter crash. You kind of learn like her growing up, meeting her husband, they fall in love. It's like this happy story. But at the same time, you're like learning about this other guy who was like a really close friend of hers in her life. Her husband, on their 1-year anniversary, like the day before the anniversary, went away to do, like, he was a photographer. They would travel together, and he went away to Alaska and never came back. His helicopter crashed. They found the pilot's body. They found the remnants of the helicopter. It had been years. She didn't want to believe it. Like, it was a whole thing for her to, you go through her grief journey. It was really hard. She eventually just like they like had moved to California. She flies back home across the country, and she's like living with her family and rebuilding. And it's really sad and hard for her, but like she's moved forward. The guy she ends up like being with is like that one friend from growing up, and he's like really there for her. And he even said to her, like, I will hold space for, like, I know you that you won't always be able to say to me, like, I was your one true love. That's kind of why it's like two true loves.
Okay.
Like, and I will never take that from you, and I will always honor his memory. Like, he was wonderful. He's everything she needed and more. Slowly she got there, and they got engaged, and like it's a beautiful like story after grief. And then randomly one day, like after dinner, they're sitting there, and she gets a phone call, and it's her husband.
So he was alive.
He was alive.
Oh,
and
wow.
I won't even say what happened during the crash, but like they just never found his body. But if he was he was like deemed dead after a while. Like, it's been years. They found the pilot's body. They found the crash, like the remnants of the helicopter. Like, so where is he?
What was he, like, in hiding? What?
I won't say.
Okay, I'll have to read it.
But he comes back, and then it's like now she has a husband and a fiance, and like what happens? So that's the book.
Oh,
yeah.
So is that pretty early on that they say?
Early on, she basically does like I'm sitting at the table with my fiance and my husband calls me. So there's like a little bit of like, it's coming.
Okay.
And then it like dials back to like growing up with the like falling in love and like the this and the that. And then you see like you finally get to the point where like that's what happens in present day. And then you see like where she's going to go with it, who she's going to choose.
Oh, interesting.
What's going on, what she's feeling. It was really
that sounds really good.
Yeah, and I was torn for a bit, but then I definitely had one team I was rooting for over the other, Team Sam, everybody, but I won't spoil it. Yeah. But next week we're going to rate it, and we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
So yeah, so let me know if you end up reading it.
Yes,
that sounds good one. And then next week, Amanda and I are going to be interviewing Mary Belle. She's an amazing author of an Italian love story series. We cannot wait to have her on. We have a link in bio for her book. Vivi Il Momento is the name of her first book in her series. We'll be talking to her. She's so cool, so much fun, so funny. We cannot wait to have her on next week.
This was so fun.
It was so fun. We're so happy to have you. You are welcome back at Book Please HQ.
Oh, thank you for
anytime.
having me.
We'll have to have you with Amanda one day just to do a little kiki.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yes, I'll do Amanda's little line. I hope I don't butcher it. But thank you so much for watching. You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Book Please Podcast. We also have a Facebook group, which is Book Please /Booklets. Check us out there, chat with us, and thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.